Hey there, Orbiters, it's Nick from the Orbital Alliance, and welcome to today's video, which is actually the longest video that exists on the channel, which is crazy. It comes in at over 2.5 hours, and I'm gonna tell you exactly why you should stick around for all of it, or at least listen to it. Throw in some AirPods, listen to it while you drive or while you work. It'll be worth it, I promise. So this is actually a video interview, which is the first of its kind on the channel. And it's a video interview with a man named Szabolcs Nagy. He goes by Szabi. He's one of the best International Space Station astrophotographers in the world. I guarantee that. He's a wonderfully generous and kind spirit, and I got to know him over space Twitter, and I said, you know what, I actually need to meet this guy. He seems great, and I really would love to share him with the channel's viewers, you guys. So I actually hosted a video interview over Discord. I recorded it, and over the last 2 months, we recorded this in May, I've actually been editing it and preparing it, for you guys so that it would look nice and not just like a plain old Discord recording, but it's ready to be shared with you guys, and I think you guys will gain a ton from watching this interview with Szabi. Like I said, he's just kind, a generous spirit. He's incredibly skilled, and he's kind of pioneered the art of photographing the International Space Station, along with a few others in the world. But Szabi really is up there on the frontier, and he's the reason why I have done basically anything with space station photography. He's taught me everything. So I think you guys could benefit from meeting him too. So this conversation, we talk about the space station, we talk about other astrophotography, space exploration, culture, everything in between. And I think it's just a really, really cool thing. It's down to earth. We're just rambling and going on and having a good time. And I think you guys will too. I didn't want to cut out anything because I felt like if you missed even just a couple minutes, you would lose the humanity of the conversation. Like if you went to a coffee shop and had coffee with somebody, you wouldn't really edit out that conversation. You can't. It's in real time. So you have like 99.5% of the conversation straight up. So hopefully you guys are willing to stick out that 2.5 hours for us, and I think you'll learn something. If you do learn something, let me know what that thing is in the comment section below. Leave me a comment. I would love to hear just even a single thing you said. I didn't know what that was, or I just figured that out as you explained it. That's really cool. So that's what this whole channel is about, is learning about space. So if you do learn something, let me know below. So Szabi actually runs his own space YouTube channel, Space Station Guys, and he has his own website, which is sort of a community archive of International Space Station photography. And I would love it if you guys could go and support Szabi by subscribing to his channel, which I'll link below, and going to his website and viewing the imagery that's on there. If you want to go the extra mile, purchase something from his web shop. Buy a shirt or a hoodie or a hat. They got the awesome International Space Station on it. You can see it. He's wearing it in the video. So be sure to show Szabi some love and support for giving us the time in today's video. So without further ado, I'm going to stop rambling and I'm going to let you guys meet Szabi from Space Station Guys. All right. Hey, Orbiters. Welcome to this interview. I'm happy to introduce to you my newest friend, Szabi of the Space Station Guys. So welcome, Szabi, to the Orbital Alliance YouTube channel.
Hey, Nick, how's it going? Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. It's going very, very well. Just to catch everybody up. So Szabi and I have been Twitter, what's the word? Like acquaintances
Buddies.
Twitter buddies for probably a couple of years now. I don't know how long exactly. I remember the moment I discovered your Twitter account, and I got so excited that there was somebody else out there who was as passionate about imaging the space station as I was. and not only that, you actually had information about how to do it better than I was doing. So I was like, dude, I gotta follow this guy. And every picture you posted just got me more and more interested in getting to know you and to like improve my craft as an amateur astrophotographer. So to kind of introduce that. So you run your own YouTube channel and social media accounts called Space Station Guys, correct? Do you want to talk a little bit about that, and we can go from there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hi. It's we I think we've known each other for quite a while now on Twitter, and it's such a cool place, to meet people who are actually doing the same interest than I do, or it's you find some common ground with people. Yes, I set up this. I probably call it brand by now, called Space Station Guys. It's funny because it was an accident why it became Space Station Guys, because I wanted to set up just Space Station Guy.
Yeah.
And I made a mistake with the domain.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow I ended up with Space Station Guys, which was a good mistake because I have the interest of towards ISS imaging. But then later on, I realized that the website that I wanted to use to share the knowledge, the basic knowledge of how to take photos of the ISS and just the basic knowledge about it, it turned out that it's becoming a hub for ISS imaging, and it's not just about me anymore. Well, a long time ago now, I give as much surface uh, to amateur photographers who's taking photos either manually tracked or motorized mount using motorized mounts, and then now the space station guys fits perfectly the entity because it's a community now, and
Yeah.
I think I proudly can say that maybe this website has the biggest amateur collection of ISS photos, which is great. And you will see once the ISS is gone, this will be huge. I
Yes.
think.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Just, yeah, if you go to, it's just spacestationguys.com, spacestationguys.com, and you can go there
That's
and
correct.
thumb around, and you can see this huge archive of images that Szabi has taken, and all these community members have contributed. I think I have a few in there as well, but there's so many amazing shots from people all over the world. It's not just one place. It's all over the world because the space station is visible to 90% of the planet, or give or take, and that means everybody has equal opportunity to learn the craft, get some equipment, and practice and get better at it. And I think you've created a wonderful hub for this type of art, and it's really, really incredible. So hats off to you for taking the lead on this and creating this sort of resource. And as you said, once the space station is gone, it's been decommissioned. People are going to be starving to take shots of this thing, and there's going to be this shots from all different orientations, different styles, different construction builds before this, after that. There's lots of cool things here, and every shot counts. So you're doing great work, and it's exactly why I was like, hey, I just have to meet you over the internet in person, and hopefully one day in real life we get the chance to meet. So
Would be great.
yeah. I was just drawn to that because that's what community is getting to know the people, and becoming better at what you do through that. So
I would like to highlight that this is, yes, I give the space for it, but it's the people who are making it huge. And I mean, yes, I have my fair share of it, but the contribution I did not foresee, to be fair. And I'm really happy that there are more and more people getting into it, sort of having the same equipment that, let's say, I do, and they say, "Oh, I never tried it, and I never knew this is possible." So we hopefully it opens up a possibility for a lot of people that I can use the same telescope that I'm using for astro images for this cool thing. So yeah, why not? Let's give it a try. So it's the credit is not fully on me. It's the amateur community.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's amazing. So I'd like to back up just a little bit and ask you just a little bit about you, so we can get to know you as a person, and then we'll sort of wrap back around to space and astrophotography and all the fun nitty gritty stuff. So I would like to know a little bit about you and have the fellow orbiters on our channel here to get to know who you are as a person. So do you mind giving us maybe just the sort of elevator discussion, like in a couple minutes, like tell us who you are, where you're from, because I know you're not in America where we are, at least where I am. So tell us about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm Hungarian originally. So I was born in Hungary. I grew up there. I was lucky enough to go to the States during my university studies. So I spent an amazing year in North Carolina, and that kind of put me on an international track. Because once I think you've been abroad and you spend some time, you, your horizon is just wider.
Right.
And then although I went back home and I finished my studies and lived in Holland for a while, and then I went back home, and now I've been living in London, United Kingdom, for the past 13 years. And yeah, I have a daily job. I I'm kind of, what I do this is hobby for me. So space station guys. Also, I'm a co-founder of another YouTube channel called Space Junkie, and that's we are basically live streaming rocket launches, and we have our own program. So we talk about the harder things that involves rocket science or just space exploration, but we try to dial it down and sort of make it understandable for everyone. So I definitely got on a path that I like to talk about things, and I think why probably I was a little more popular amongst astronomy groups here in London is because I really have the passion for it,
Mhm.
and I think people love to see people talking with passion about the things they love, and this is how I just got into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely true, and that's your passion does seep through and shines a very positive light. You the way you tweet and the way that you post your videos and the way you present yourself in your videos is always optimistic and compassionate, um,
Mm,
and inviting. And I think that's a very rare thing, especially on the internet when people are striving for the spotlight or trying to make something about them, and it's just not the case. Like you are like, I just want to help people understand the thing that I love so that they can love it too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But sadly, I don't have enough time for it. We are working with the Space Junkie sort of ecosystem, we call this is a website and a YouTube channel. We're working hard to make it a full-time job. And then hopefully that will finally open up the possibility, the opportunity to fully unleash, this kind of interest, and just giving the best, both with Space Junkie and obviously with the space station guys, because I think it's brilliant. I mean, the future holds pretty cool stuff. I mean, there are now the Chinese space station, half ready basically. This year they're gonna do massive step forward, finishing it or getting close to finishing it. Plus the plans for you know private space stations like Axiom or Orbital Reef. I
Mhm.
mean, there is a continuity, hopefully, for ISS, because I mean, it's silly to think that it's gonna be there for forever. It's
Right.
already an aging little lady, but
Yeah.
it's but definitely won't be there forever. And
Right.
it's a natural progression, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So going a little bit back towards your history, so you grew up in Hungary, and you said you traveled to the States for a little bit. What was it that brought you there or gave you the opportunity to come to the United States?
Mhm. It was my study because I studied agriculture, and the agricultural ministry of Hungary sort of organized. It's like a traineeship, a practical experience, I think. So with that, I basically I was working in a massive greenhouse, and
Mhm.
because my field was sort of irrigation
Yeah.
and mainly indoor irrigation, and growing plants, and that's how I ended up in North Carolina in a huge, I think it was 120 acres of greenhouse.
Wow.
So yeah, that brought me there, and if funny enough, I managed to go to the Kennedy Space Center, but I wasn't really into it that time. It interested me, and it was so cool to be there, but I was nowhere near with the mindset that I have today.
But it probably had
Okay.
some significant influence to leading you to where you are right now. Then simply going there probably planted a whole host of seeds in your mind and your heart, like to get interested in space. Even if you weren't like super energized by it back then, I'm sure it probably had some
It's
influence.
weird. It's weird because if I look back, maybe not. It's so
Okay.
weird because
Mm-hmm.
it's one would assume that this is a perfect trigger for a massive interest
Yeah.
towards one topic, and I don't think it was. It
Mm-hmm.
interested me, but I still wasn't really involved. Um, I think what made me involved is definitely astronomy and
Mm-hmm.
astrophotography.
Yeah.
That was the key thing, I think.
Sure.
Maybe the seeds were there from Florida,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely started growing when I started doing astrophotography.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
milestone.
For
Yeah,
sure.
for you as well, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, like my beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I had kind of I have little things all over the place throughout my life, but I was super interested in space as a little boy. Little things like Comet Hale Bopp, seeing that
Mm-hmm.
in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin, who was much older than I am, brought his telescope over and showed me Saturn and the moon in my backyard, and it blew my
Yeah.
mind. Seeing Star Wars, honestly, it gave me the imagination to wonder what's out there a little bit differently
Mm-hmm.
than that, and then just a whole host of books and watching stuff at school, and then eventually taking some classes, and then buying my own telescope, leading to the crazier stuff or as an adult. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then having visited Kennedy Space Center twice now has been massively influential for me. But yeah, there's a whole smattering of of things that have led to my interest in it for sure. Um,
I
and
think
it's
it's different with everybody. I have a feeling that everybody has their own trigger points or sort of building it up, and then the floodgates just opens, and then that's it. You are totally hooked and never escaping.
right. Well, and what's interesting, I think, and for you and I, our generation, we did not live during the moon landing, and that was such
No.
a that changed everybody who was that age. Basically, every astronaut from the shuttle era and the space station era, probably up to maybe the last few years, probably all of them, for the most part, would say the reason I'm here is because I watched the moon landing when I was 7 or 9 or 3, and it was like
Yep.
I have to be an astronaut. Um,
Yep.
but you and I grew up watching Russian Soyuz and space shuttles
Yes.
building a space station, or
Yes.
multiple space stations, really, if you
Mm-hmm.
count Mir and I guess Skylab. But that was ahead of my time. But, so yeah, our influences of what we've watched are certainly different from generation to generation. So we kind of had to. I guess the point I'm trying to make is people of an older generation, that was kind of thrust upon them. Everybody just was given this gift of the moon landing.
Yes.
If you're born after that, you had to find space to get interested in
Mm-hmm.
it.
Oh yes.
So to your point, there is more than one way to discover it, and they all lead to different places, and it's just as exciting, you know.
You know, I think when they shut down the shuttle program, and I remember Concorde stopped flying,
Mm-hmm.
and I was saying to myself that hold on for a second, now we started going backwards now, so all the cool things are basically ending. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
there's the continuity, and I think what's happening in the past, especially 2 years now, with this with SpaceX and private companies sort of kick the door into
yeah.
the industry and basically just turning it upside down. I think this is fantastic, and probably it was worth waiting,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because now I think we're gonna see amazing things in the next few years. I mean, just think about it, that SpaceX had now the fourth crew mission plus they had a demo too, plus they had the inspiration for and the Axiom one.
Yeah.
So that's like what, 8 missions. One is ongoing in 2 years.
Right.
In 2 years, and they just started flying the Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And the trust upon them from NASA, the fact that they are, I mean, they are okay, and the military is all right with using secondhand boosters.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of trust is they build?
Right.
It's incredible, and we don't even mention Falcon Heavy yet or Starship.
Right.
Beautiful time to live, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah.
Can't
And
wait to take the first photo of the Starship on orbit.
right. Oh my gosh. It's gonna be so shiny. It's gonna be very reflective. And
I don't know, actually. It depends on if the heat tab is gonna be
oh,
down.
good point.
Maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe
Yep.
not. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not. But you know what? I can't wait. This is gonna be
Right.
beautiful. It's gonna be beautiful.
Yeah. It's gonna be unlike anything that has ever graced our eyes. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So kind of again wrapping back to your personal story. So you spent some time
Hmm.
in the States, and then you went back to Hungary
Yep.
after, and then what was it
I have.
that brought you back or brought you to the UK from there? Was it job or some other just interested in going there? Yeah, what was that?
But it's weird because I think until I found it's weird because until I found astronomy, I kind of was I was partying a lot and kind of drifting from one place to another, one country to another, exploring, just having a good time, I suppose. And then in Hungary, so we had a company with my parents, and eventually with my mom, and it didn't really work out the way, and I already felt like probably Hungary is not for me.
Hmm.
I want to be more in an international environment.
Yeah.
And then when I made up my mind and I said, okay, that's it, I'm going. I was hesitating to go back to Holland, which I utterly liked. I think it's an incredible country with incredible people.
Yeah.
Or my brother already lived in London, so
Hmm.
he sort of helped me to get started, and I think I chose the easier way. So I came to London.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this is how I got here. It's not nothing major behind the decision. It's
Mhm.
just exploring, I guess,
Right.
and then I got stuck.
Yeah. Well, and I forgot to ask you about your time in Holland. Was that after going to the United States, but before the UK? Was
Yes.
yes.
Yes, in
So
between, still related to my studies, which I worked in that field, which is a bit of a shame because
mhm.
I think it's a beautiful industry, agriculture. But yeah, eventually it didn't work out the way. But yeah, I spent there 6 months, and then I stayed home for quite a few years, and then I moved to the UK. But I think that was a really good move
Mhm.
because then here I mean BBC is a very respected TV channel all around the world.
Yeah.
But I mean, seeing there was a program called Sky at Night, it's still ongoing, which since I was interviewed
Yeah.
in, so it's such a cool stuff. But 'cause that was my inspiration, really. Brian Cox, Professor Brian Cox, is
Mhm.
the single um, is the person I could blame for this, for all this,
Yeah.
because A, Sky at Night, B, he had these programs called the Wonders of Series, Wonders of the Solar System, Wonders of the Universe. Brilliant. I really recommend to everybody. And then they started again on BBC, Stargazing Live
Hmm.
with Dara O'Brien. So it's a two-man show, but there was a whole crew, and then sometimes they were in the Canary Islands and here and there, and they were sort of switching back and forth. And I
Right.
remember that they were showing through a planetary camera, through a telescope, Jupiter live view, and I've never seen anything like that, and I never looked through a telescope before.
Yeah.
And it was just on the telly, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start saving money. I'm going to buy a telescope, and I want to see it for myself. I didn't know about communities, that there's a thing called Baker Street Irregular Astronomers,
Mm.
who in Regent's Park in London, they organize get-togethers. So I didn't know any of these. So my only option was to buy a telescope.
Yeah.
And I never ever gonna forget the first time I've seen with my own eyes through the telescope Jupiter and Saturn, especially.
Mhm.
That's it. You're done. You just
Yeah.
done. It's so cool. There's no photograph that replicate that.
Right.
Nothing. Nothing.
Mhm.
It's brilliant. So yeah, and that started me. Yeah, but it could never happen if I don't come to Britain, if I don't tune onto these programs and then eventually not buying my telescope.
Right.
So faith, I don't know, whatever we call it.
Mhm. Yeah. I listened to a little bit of your interview with Felix Schlang yesterday
Mhm.
after you sent it to me, and I got a chance to listen to probably about the first half, and he mentioned the experience of you can look at a picture of the Empire State Building, but nothing will beat standing in front of the front door and looking up.
Yep.
And just taking in the scale and the awe that comes from something like that. And that's just basically what you're describing with astronomy. And
Mhm.
you can see it on a screen, you can see a picture in a book, but until you get up to a telescope eyepiece and you're looking at something, you can't believe what you're looking at.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
little point of light in the sky is a planet 100 times larger than ours, and it's got raging storms that would swallow our whole planet and probably kill us.
Yep.
It's just mind blowing is an understatement.
Yes,
So
absolutely. But
yeah.
it's weird because I'm sure you have it in your mind. It's stuck with your brain, and it's not as pleasing as a beautiful photograph, but still, because you know that, okay, now I'm looking into it, and it's not great, but on a good night when the seeing is good, you can see the Cassini division in Saturn, and you can see the planet casting its own shadow onto the ring.
Right.
I mean, you're just staring at it, and it just becomes clearer and sharper. More time you're spending with it if you're patient enough, and I think that's I don't know, if that doesn't keep people awake at night, then what is? I
Right.
mean, what is?
It's
It's unearthly.
for something like the topic of space, uh, for something that is so hard to see and so hard to imagine. Sometimes I feel like it's the most real thing
Mhm.
that you can think about or study um,
Mhm.
or surround yourself with. It's sometimes the most um, tangible in your mind to think about. It's just crazy. It feels opposite for what you would expect, but it's
Yeah.
a cool
Yeah.
thing.
Especially these days, I think we are spending so much time, us, spending so much time with things that don't really matter, not important, watching other people's lives or doing silly things in a video, TikTok and so on and so forth. And I think it's more and more important to stick with some real stuff, some stuff that just inspire people, just the fact that they are there,
Yeah.
and even with naked eye, I think if you know what you're looking at, it's not just a star, but it's a planet. Oh, really? Okay. And then people, some sort of interest already, up and awake in somebody's mind. You never know. Have you done sidewalk astronomy before?
No, I have not. I have
Hmm.
not worked up the courage, but I have done star parties with people who have invited folks that I don't know. So not necessarily like walked into a city street, put my telescope down, and said,
Uh-huh.
"Hey, you walking down the street, you want to look through this?" I've not had the
Yeah,
courage.
you.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, but I've seen some videos of people doing it, and it always seems to be rewarding. Have you done it?
I have quite a few times. I
Okay.
love it. I love it. If I would have more time, And at the moment I don't have a car, but if I would have one, I would definitely would do it. It's challenging. It's very challenging, especially once I've been in front of Wimbledon station, and believe me, people were like avoiding, like I'm selling something, and
Right,
people
right.
kept asking, so, so how much? I was like, what do you mean how much? This is for free.
Yeah.
This I'm giving you this gift of the view of the moon, and people were like, yeah, okay, it can't be that big thing, and they look at, whoa, whoa. And I'm like, you see, I'm not kidding, and it's so hard that people have these boundaries sometimes, and especially when kids come around, it's priceless. It's
Hmm.
priceless because you really don't know what you started in that little person, you know.
Yeah.
And just like a moon landing for the previous generation we were
Yeah.
talking about,
Hmm.
you never know how many people in the States became scientists just because what happened in you know, 68 and onwards till 72 with
Yeah.
the Apollo landings. It's unmeasurable,
Right.
but I'm sure a lot of people.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's good to give back something to the community or just to the society. If everybody does their own fair share, I think we can spread science and these experience so much more.
Yeah.
Definitely try it.
Yeah.
It's rewarding.
Well, you've officially inspired me to go do it. I'm gonna. I mean, with if we can get past this spell of just almost perpetual cloud cover that we've had here for what feels like the last 4 months, where I live,
Really?
I feel like we're lucky if we get half a day of clear skies, maybe a few nights here or there. We've had a few. Luckily, one of them happened on that Starlink pass a week and a half ago. I was able to
Mm-hmm.
grab that,
Mm-hmm.
but my astrophotography has suffered significantly because of clouds. So
Mm.
hopefully, once we get past the month of May, typically things start to clear up around this area, and I'll probably give that a try, and maybe I'll make a video
Mm.
out of it for the channel. So
Mm-hmm.
for the orbiters who are watching this, maybe you can expect to see a video of me gaining the courage to go do it. I'll pick a local town nearby. There's some really cool downtown areas, like small little towns
Mm-hmm.
nearby, and
Mm-hmm.
some of the nightlife gets pretty good. So maybe I'll experiment with that.
Definitely try to find something busy, a station, or maybe not a station, because station people have the tendency sort of running to or from.
Yeah, right.
But somewhere on a high street or something where you can see even the moon will stagger people,
Yeah, right.
really. 'Cause
For
most of the
sure.
people never seen anything through a telescope, never.
Yeah. Well, and especially it'll probably have to be the moon anyway, because a lot of the good planets that we can see are in the morning right now,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
probably not many people are really interested in stopping on their way to get their morning coffee and being late for work. It's like, hey, you want to look at Jupiter? Like, insert
Uh,
expletive
n- n-
here. Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah, right, right.
No,
You,
definitely evening. Evening is the target, but you're right. Most of the planets are in the morning sky now, so probably another few months.
mhm,
Um, yeah, that will help. That will
yeah.
help. Try it. It won't disappoint. I can guarantee.
Great. Yeah. No. Thanks for the idea. I gotta internalize it, and let's go for it. We should do it. um, so I would like to learn a little bit about your home country of Hungary. I don't know much about it. I have lineage. All of my ancestors are from Europe. Um,
Oh, okay.
my grandmother, so my dad's mom, is from Germany. She came here in the 1950s after World War II.
Uh
Um,
huh.
so my other grandpa is from Bulgaria.
Uh huh.
So I have that side is only two generations removed from European immigrants, and then on my other side, my great grandparents were from the Czech Republic. Um,
Okay.
so closer to Hungary, right? That's pretty
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
And then the other side, I think, is the furthest out. 5 generations was from Ireland. So um, I'm kind of all over the place in my my lineage. And I love studying languages too. It's a fun thing that I like to try to do. I studied Spanish German, French in school.
Mm-hmm.
Spanish was to meet the requirements for education, but I took
Yep.
the other two just for fun.
Okay.
And on my own, I've studied a little bit of Russian because of space. um,
Yes.
I was like, I would love to know the alphabet and the Cyrillic alphabet and get to know a few basic words. And I know almost nothing, just a few words and phrases, but it's exciting, and I love to understand other cultures a little bit more. And to kind of cap this all off, I've never had the chance to leave the United States, so
Mm-hmm.
I've always been here. So
Mm-hmm.
people like you getting the chance to meet you, I
Mm-hmm.
hope you can be a little bit of a lens that I can view through to understand our planet a little bit better. So can you tell me, maybe as a stranger to your home country, what is Hungary like?
What
What?
is Hungary like?
Yeah.
Right. I would state from the beginning that I have lived, so I'm 41 right now,
Hmm.
and I lived about 13, 14 and a half years away from my country. So I know what Hungary is like, obviously, but let's say I haven't lived there in the past 13 years. So I'm not familiar with that much today's Hungary. But
Yeah.
what people should know about Hungary is it's a very old country. It has a history over 1,000 years,
Hmm.
and which is a long time. We had a very interesting and very mixed bag sort of history, ups and downs. We have a lot of scientists in the past and today as well. I was just mentioning to you that we are doing some work with the European leader of the MIRI instrument, um, the developers. I always forget the official title.
Hmm.
His name is Urs Detra, and he's working for ESA, and he's the leader of the European developing group of, I think, the MIRI instrument
Hmm.
on James Webb Telescope, which
And
is happening right now, and
and
that's a very very important. I'm sorry.
oh, sorry. I was going to include for the viewers that the ESA is the European Space
Oh
Agency.
yeah,
So it's kind of like the
yes,
equivalent of NASA, but in Europe for multiple countries. They work together. So,
that's correct.
sorry
Yes.
to
Yes.
interrupt. Please
No, no,
continue.
no, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
that's important. And then, so yes, we have lots of scientists. The Kármán line was named after Theodore Kármán,
Hmm.
which is weird because they don't use the Hungarian name, Tódor Kármán. That's
Mm.
his name. But I think in English is Theodore von Kármán. But anyway, the Kármán line, that imaginary line of 100 kilometer, where the scientists agreed in the past that the space begins and Earth atmosphere kind of ends. That's named after him. But we had composers, and we had some really bright minds. We are really proud of. The country is small. It's about twice the size of Holland, but it's beautiful. We've got beautiful food, really nice wine. In wintertime, it's freezing cold. In summertime, it's boiling hot.
Yeah.
So it's a proper four season country, and I definitely recommend visiting Budapest to everybody, because I mean, it's not me. I used to be a minicab driver, a taxi driver in London for 7 years, and every time I talk to somebody in my car, either they were or they are planning to go to Budapest. It's
Yeah.
it's very very popular, and not just in Europe, in the world. Lots of Chinese tourists,
Mm.
Americans, yeah, from all over the world. It's just a nice. You still have a touch of the post communism, so
Yeah.
you can see in the buildings and the mentality. It's really dividing, in my opinion, west and east,
Hmm.
sort of. We were always the border, and you can feel the influence of both.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting mixture, I think. Yeah,
Sure.
definitely recommend to visit. Yeah.
Yeah.
and
And
and the language is in the top three most difficult language.
really, is that right?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
are
it's
the?
really.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So so just one more sentence.
Hmm.
The only language we have relationship is the Finnish. So it's
Oh,
called a Finno-Ugric language group. So we are surrounded by Slavic countries
mhm.
and Latin-based countries,
Yeah.
basically, and we understand none of that. So if somebody from Czech Republic talks to somebody from Slovakia, or I don't know, from Poland, let's say, they kind of, I'm not saying they understand fully each other, but it's a bit like Italian and Spanish. There's
Yeah.
a lot of sort of overlapping.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
call those,
not with us.
I think they call those words cognates. Is that correct in English? I think where there's some, you might see a word, yeah, in a romantic Latin language like in Italian or Spanish or even
Hmm.
French,
Hmm.
that there's a word that almost looks identical, maybe if for a few letters, and even has the same meaning, but it's because the root is all Latin based.
Yes,
So same
yes,
thing for like Slavic languages,
yes.
things like that. So they won't
Yeah,
be able
they
to.
are evolved from the same root, but they
Yeah.
developed like an evolution, with the language over the time, just different influences, other languages.
Yeah.
Um, let's say a good example. We say the word small, we say kichi, and the Turkish says küçük.
Oh
So
yeah.
we have no relationship in terms of language, but because when the Ottoman Empire was huge, we're talking about the 1400s,
Mhm.
we've been occupied for 150 years. And because of that, it influenced the culture, the cooking culture, the language, that some words just infiltrated into the language. And so it already formed it a little bit. And then we were part of the Austro-Hungarian monarchy, so on and so forth. It has an interesting touch, definitely,
Yeah. That's
the
fascinating.
history. Mm.
That's so cool. Yeah, and I mean the number one place I want to go to is Europe because there's just so much evolution of culture and
Hmm.
sharing of experience and of course even the bad stuff too, even the wars
Hmm.
shapes those people and the places they live in, and sometimes even for the better because of it. But it's regardless of whether it's good or bad, it's fascinating, and I would love to experience just to go around on a train and to see all
Hmm.
these countries.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Unfortunately, in the United States, hopping between states is really boring. It's for the most part, it's a lot of just empty land,
Uh-huh.
farms. It's just farms. So at least in the Midwest and the middle of the country, so and you don't get much culture change because our country is so young. Um,
Mm.
it
Mhm. Mhm.
240 years old. It's
Yeah.
or whatever the math is on that. There's not much that has changed
Yeah.
from then, and if you do find something that's old, it's on one side of the country, where the colonies started in the
Yes.
1700s,
Oh,
1600s.
yes.
So it's yeah, you struggle to see culture and development. However, the languages I think are there's so many regional accents in the United States.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's hard to understand other English speakers, particularly in the South. Um, you know,
I know what you're talking about, I
yeah,
think. As a
right.
foreigner, I just started learning English in America. When I
Hmm.
landed, my English was very poor. And I will never forget there was this guy, he was from South.
Hmm.
And he was already, chewing the, what is it called?
Tobacco, uh,
Yeah,
or
the jerk, or the beef jerk. No,
oh,
it's tobacco that
chew,
people just keeping it in my
chewing tobacco. Yeah, is that
chewing
probably what?
tobacco. Okay,
Some people will.
so he was just
There's some nicknames for it, but yeah, I
okay.
think I
I
think I know what
never
you're
took
talking
the
about.
time to find it out, to be honest. And when he was talking to me like that, and then and for me it's hilarious because I never heard the real southern accent before, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feeling. And
Hmm.
I'm sorry if I came across like that.
Yeah.
But I'm coming from a totally different culture.
Hmm.
You need to know that Europeans are sort of idolizing in some ways America, because it's the movies, the music, and lots of things are coming from the States. And
Right.
once you are there, I couldn't believe it when I was 22, and then when I landed, I was like, I can't believe double yellow line, and like I'm in the movies.
Yeah,
Kind of
right.
silly, sounds silly, but it's the world. It means the world. If you make it to the States, even for visiting, because it's amazing for
Yeah.
us. But I'm sure you feel the same to Europe. So that was
Mhm.
make world round. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I think some of the iconic architecture of Europe is really what
Mhm.
I think Americans are drawn to. There's certain buildings, there's certain town squares
Mhm.
that just about everybody are familiar with. In particular, Italy, of course, like everyone wants to see the Colosseum, like,
Mm.
and even in like Russia, like, hey, in Moscow, like the Kremlin building, like everybody probably knows what that looks like.
Yep. Yep.
So there's just all over. There's probably that same kind of allure and attraction to go see this thing that you've seen only in movies.
Yes. Exactly.
So
Exactly. I like it. That's what makes world really diverse, I think,
mhm.
and I really like it.
Yeah, for sure. So learning English, I know you said when you came here you knew next to nothing, and now your English is fantastic. And because
Yes.
you've been thrust into a culture and you've lived there for so long. Of course,
Mm.
it being in England. Okay, tell me this then. Sorry, I'm gonna stop myself. Um,
Go for it.
as an American, I always never really understood when the proper time was to call it England, Britain, or the UK. I understand the UK is like several countries technically. Um,
Yeah.
when is the proper time to use England or Britain? Is there a rule?
Right. I'm okay. I might not be the right person for this,
That's
but
fine. Yeah.
so the UK, the United Kingdom, I think it includes Northern Ireland, but the Republic of Ireland is a separate country.
Hmm.
I'm a bit I can't tell you exactly what about Great Britain and the United Kingdom. I think Great Britain might include Republic of Ireland as well, but I might be absolutely wrong on that.
Yeah.
But the UK is consists of England, Wales, Scotland. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, these three I think. Am I missing something? Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Northern Ireland.
Hmm.
Apologies.
That's okay.
Apologies for the people in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And so these four countries are making up the United Kingdom. They are all separate countries, but they have sort of a regulatory alignment amongst them. So no tariffs, uh, the same rules, the same. It's like it. Imagine it a bit like the United States, that they are governed by the same government,
Yeah.
but individual countries. I mean, so the English government is deciding about certain things when it comes to Northern Ireland and Scotland, but they still deciding a lot of things about their own faith. So they have their own government and they have their own sort of powers within the country. But there are things that's centralized, and Westminster decides about that. So I
Got it.
think that's the meaning of it. But these are different countries. So if you go to Wales, let's say, then you will see that everything is written in English and Welsh,
Mm-hmm.
for instance. So they still kept their own. Scotland, same thing. Ireland, same thing.
Right. Okay. That definitely helps.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I'm no mean a United Kingdom expert.
Right. Right. Well, you're more than I am, so it's helpful even in the smallest amount. So,
Mm. But
and
you gave me a good idea. I'm gonna find out what's the difference between Great Britain and United Kingdom. Yeah, because I
yeah.
don't know that
Okay.
from the
Yeah.
top of my head. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. um. Yeah. So let's say, yeah, let's start to like wheel it back into the space realm, but
Yes.
using English as sort of the segue here. So you have been living in an English speaking country that's allowed you to develop that language very well, and to be able to communicate, of course, not just for your day-to-day life, but on the internet. And you have decided to create Space Station Guys, this YouTube channel and social media accounts, and through using English, your second language, which I think is really impressive and courageous too, because there's a lot of risk there. You know, are people going to even listen to somebody who is a not a native speaker, or what? You know, there's a lot of questions that start to come into your head, but I think you've done, you know, an amazing job doing that, and people are all about it. So like, how did that how did that feel starting a channel using a foreign language to you?
It's a great question, because you see, it never occurred to me. It was just, it's so crazy that sometimes when things are happening or unfolding, you don't really think about it. So I wasn't really giving any thought process about how it's gonna work out. I kind of trusted myself a bit. I always knew that if somebody doesn't like what I'm doing because I don't sound like an English person or American person, then let it be. You know, I'm kind of, I don't care,
Yeah.
because if somebody really wanna see into my, or look into my work, then most likely they don't care. And if somebody is having problem with me not talking or writing a perfect English, then probably they're not really up for the real deal. They don't
Right.
want to find it out, because you know, you book down in the minor details. So I don't know what to really say about if somebody have an approach like that. So what I think I assumed is I'm gonna put it there, and then it will be there. And if somebody wanna find it out, or if it meant to go somewhere, then it will happen. And but at least I gave the chance.
For sure.
And it wasn't even a question, should I do it in Hungarian or English, because you can't even compare, you know, how tiny the segment is in Hungary, and how much larger it can be, and how many more people it can reach if it's written in English. So I
Yeah.
think it wasn't even a question for a second.
That's interesting. Really interesting. Yeah.
But there was no moment when I was like, okay, now I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna make my website and I'm gonna make my YouTube channel, and that's it. And it will be great. You know, there was nothing like that. Nothing
Yeah.
like that. It's
Right.
just, yeah, okay, let's make a YouTube channel. Okay, it can be done. I really like YouTube because, let's say, I learned all the softwares that astrophotography requires, the capturing software, the processing software, PIPP, AutoStacker, all these. I learned how to use it from internet,
Right.
from YouTube, or how what setup you need to use, or things like that. So when people say, "Oh, I wish I would know how to do it," I mean, we've never lived in an age like today
Yeah.
that basically your imagination is the limit. You just type it into the Google. You you don't even need to type it, you just say it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And then you got tons of tutorials about everything. So when people say I wish, well, you need to do it. But it means the good things, they never, you know, you need to work for it. It's
Right.
like working out. You know, if you don't suffer, it's never gonna happen. There is
Yeah.
no easy workout.
Right. Yeah. You
You're
don't
either
just
doing it,
drink
yeah,
something and get
yeah,
completely buff. You know?
yeah. I've seen that in astronomy, this analogy, that some people were cutting massive corners and they really don't know what they talk about. Because I think this is, you need to build it gradually.
Yeah.
Just like with everything, you cannot just getting started and like 3 weeks later, or 6 months later you're an expert or you're good at it. No, it never happens. I think that's the whole point of it. It's a progression. It's an evolution to your own mind, that you're training yourself, seeing things or noticing things that you've never noticed before. You
Yeah.
never notice it's there. So yeah, I think it's a great age. Again, I can only say.
Yeah. Totally. 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 Um, So as you got started, then as you began
Mhm.
Googling and watching videos, um, let's talk about equipment then. Let's talk about that a little
Mhm.
bit. You started watching things, learning about things, and you started deciding, um, I'm really serious about getting into astrophotography and astronomy.
Mhm.
I need to find some equipment. What led you to your equipment today, and what do you use to take your photos?
Mhm. Mhm. Awesome question, because it does matter a lot. But I think uh, so. Ideally, you should know what you want to do, but that's not what happens at the beginning, because we just sort of we all have a basic interest, and then you just want to see planets, moon, sun, maybe deep sky objects, depending on where you live. And so my personal story, I bought an EQ5 equatorial mount with an 8-inch Newtonian scope.
Mhm.
uh, so I kind of wanted to do everything, but then I soon realized that there is no such thing that you can do everything, especially not with one telescope,
Right.
because they are just one certain scope is good for something, but less good for good for planets, but not really good for deep sky, or the other way around. Or if you buy something in the middle, it means you can do everything a little, but not really good or
Yeah.
well.
Hmm.
So I found myself into this, and I never managed to polar align my mount. So there was a frustration, and probably that was one of the key point that I never went down to the deep sky imaging.
Right.
I never done any of these.
Yeah.
It's I have a theory that you can be. I think there's a saying, the jack of all masters. I
Uh,
think jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades. Yes.
That's
Hmm.
the one.
Yeah.
So that's what I never wanted to be.
Hmm.
So having a little bit of no, I wanted to find out what is my interest, and then channeling all my energy towards that. Because planets and ISS sort of the same kettle of fish, and then just going down there, and then just spending your time, because you can't do. I mean, I see a lot of people who are trying to do deep sky and planetary imaging, and they just not good with any.
Right. Right.
And it's so strange, because when you see people spending awesome amount of money for
Hmm.
equipment, and then you just feel sorry that they have the tool, but they just don't know how to accumulate it.
Right.
And it's so yeah, but again, we are different, and some people like it that way, and some people managing doing all kinds of stuff. But for me, definitely it was planetary. And when ISS came into view, I mean, in the meantime, I had a 90 millimeter Maxitov scope, brilliant travel scope and first scope. I can only recommend to everybody. You will see the ring of Saturn. You will
Hmm.
see Jupiter with the main cloud belts with some planets around. Moon is staggering.
Yeah.
Tiny, teeny, tiny little scope. Amazing. Uh, then I had a 127 Maxitov.
Hmm.
But then I realized that the short tube is not good for ISS,
Yeah.
unless some people put a broom in between the mount plate and the scope. So because you have a bigger sort of, what is it called? I forgot the word. Anyway, so
Yeah.
it's just easier to control
Oh
the
yeah.
mount instead
Hmm.
of the tiny tube. You can't move it that finely.
Yeah.
But then I realized that none of these equipments really going to my way. And then I realized that the Dobsonian
Hmm.
telescope is the way, because I explain it in my videos. That is just, I mean, I need to elevate it at some point. It's always on the ground, and it's a little bit back breaking,
Hmm.
but you can sort of grab the whole thing. You can even use your own body, sort of lean onto it, and the fine movement can really be achieved with that one. With equatorial mount, it's no.
No,
It's not.
that's what I use, unfortunately, because it's what I bought when I was 17, and I thought this would be a great telescope for everything. And
Yep.
when I started exploring space station photography, and when I found your material, I was like,
Mhm.
I was like, Dobsonian was the way to go. That's for sure. And I have it in the back of my mind to one day eventually upgrade and move there. But man, equatorial mounts are frustrating times 1,000. It's just, if it's like a stair step movement. If you want to shift with a Dobsonian, you can grab it and just aim it wherever you want it. It's kind of like smooth, fluid motion. But because for those who don't understand, who are listening, what that a mount is, it's what you put the telescope tube on. And an equatorial mount is like two axes. It's like left and right and up and down. But you could do them together. It's just really clunky and really, really difficult, especially when you're tracking the space station.
To explain, equatorial mount is designed to be equatorial. The equatorial means that it's not just up and down and left and right. It has a certain motion that designed for the objects, usually the way they crossing the sky. So things, let's say planets usually rise from east, sets in the west, and in between they sort of go up to a certain point in the sky. That's the highest point, and then from that they start coming down. And this equatorial mount is made of replicating this motion in the sky. Plus, with the equatorial mount, you don't have field rotation. So let's say if you could image or videoing, let's say Jupiter, let's say from rise to set, you will see the same way in your.
It doesn't
exactly
like wobble a little bit, right?
Exactly. That's called the field rotation. So if you use a Dobsonian scope, that's why it's not perfect for even planetary photography, because if you shoot a long enough video, the planet rotates, due to field rotation enough that when you start stacking, I mean, these days the software is sort of compensating and take it into account, but still, it's making things harder.
Yeah, that's interesting. I see. I learned something from you here, because I didn't know there was a name for that concept. I was always aware of field rotation, but that makes perfect sense. It's and it's a problem. It can be for sure.
But to be fair, I have a equatorial platform, so that you just put under the Dobsonian scope. It looks scary because you put a big scope on a platform which 2 bits, and the bottom one is fixed. It's on the ground, and the other one is sort of it's like a triangle shape, and it's moving like this.
Okay.
And it gives the equatorialness. I think I just created a word.
Yeah.
So it's tracking for about an hour, but during its tracking, there is no field rotation. And you don't have a controller physically. You can press the button, go, okay, now go a little left, a little right, a little up, a little down. So it's all manual. So it's a little bit old school as well, but it does a perfect job if you buy the right one. And in America, I know it has a massive history. In Europe, we have less and less, but there's a fellow Hungarian who just making equatorial platform, and he's doing really, really well made equatorial platforms. So for Dobsonians is still available. Not what you buy from the shop, because they have the one that's motorized, but that doesn't compensate for field rotation. You need to have the equatorial platform.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. And then we've talked about mounts, the actual optics for telescopes, and maybe specifically to space station photography. Both you and I and many other people, we use reflector telescopes, which use mirrors, so big circular mirrors. I have an 8-inch, so the mirror's probably about that big. I think you use a 10-inch. Is that correct? So a little bit bigger, and they go up. You can get 12, 16. And then after that, for the most part, I think people make their own telescopes, right? Like if you want a bigger mirror, and you can make huge homemade Dobsonian telescopes just by crafting with raw materials, and people in their backyards can get, almost full-blown astronomer level quality images just because with a larger mirror, it means you can collect more light, and more light means more detail.
Exactly.
So you would, of course, for space station photography, recommend to people to use a mirror-based telescope, correct?
I would say so, but I think for your viewers, it's really important to highlight that what we are talking about is manual tracking.
Oh
So
yeah.
there's no motors included or involved. Sorry, you just manually basically grab your scope and you're trying to point it at the ISS. You have I use a tail rod, but I'm experimenting now. I've been recommended just to have a mobile phone mount in front of the finder scope, and then just basically doing it that way. Because Telrad, anyway, Telrad has its own problems,
Yeah.
but but basically what we do is once you align your finder scope, let's say, with your main scope, it means whatever you see in the finder scope, it's exactly what you see in your main scope. And then once you've done it, you just basically trying to keep the ISS in your field of view. Field of view is the area, the portion of the sky your camera can see. And then basically you use a high frame rate camera, and mine is shooting 100 frames per second, and basically just by practicing a lot, I have good better and worse days, but on a good day I end up, I don't know, thousands of frames, and
Yeah.
then from the thousands of frames I'm hoping that I have, I don't know, a few consecutive. If I just put them together in an animation, they suddenly come alive, and then you can see this wobbly thing because we are
Yeah.
looking through the atmosphere,
Right.
and it's fantastic, you know, when you really nail it and the sky is supporting your acts, and yeah, it's really nice when it comes together.
Yeah.
But the other side, there are people who are using Schmidt Cassegrain telescopes, let's say. That's a shorter tube. It's called a catadioptric system, so it has mirror and lens in the same time, and it's like a hybrid. It means that the light travels, so it comes in the front, and there is a mirror at the back that reflects it back on the top again. There is a little plate, and then it reflects again, so it bounces
Yeah.
three
It's
times
like
in your
1,
scope.
2, 3. Yeah.
Exactly. Versus with a reflector telescope, it comes in and it comes up, and with the secondary mirror, it just comes on the side on the top.
Right.
So it means that with a shorter tube, you can have higher focal length in the scope, but it's brilliant, but the focal length is becoming so large that it's impossible to do it manually. You
Yeah.
maybe you can get a few frames, but that's not the point. You know, that's when you need motors and sturdy mount, and but that's when it get costly.
Right. Yeah, because you can get a Dobsonian telescope for relatively cheap comparatively to other telescopes. In the States, it's, you can
Very
get,
cheap
yeah, it's
compared to bigger.
you could get a 10-inch Dobsonian in the US for $600.
Exactly.
And, you know, whereas if you were to go buy a different type of telescope, you could be spending $2,000, or one with the motors and all the extra equipment that's attached to it. I mean,
Yep.
it's crazy, and you can do amazing stuff with something that it just goes to show that the price doesn't always dictate the value of the equipment. It's how much you have to pay, but you can
Yep.
still do really, really great stuff with something less expensive.
Once I did I have a video about it on my channel where I decided, I think it was during the lockdown, during the pandemic, and I sort of went through the exact things tools accessories I'm using, and I think the final sum was around £1,200
Okay.
for the total equipment that I'm using. That will give you images. So with motorized mounts, even if you do it the not preferred way, the higher EQ mounts, EQ6, EQ8, are capable. That's probably even more than my total equipment.
Yeah.
And we're talking about just the mount. You
Right.
didn't put any optics, cameras, filters, aiming devices, nothing,
Mm-hmm.
nothing, laptop, nothing. So, it's the reason I think why I chose to sort of making the website, because I knew that most of the people are not going to have the money to buy the motorized mount and the expensive telescope. No, instead they will have similarly what I had, enthusiasm and a little bit of money just to buy the basic equipment.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's large enough to see amazing details.
Right. Yeah, because there's probably a line on beginner equipment which might
Hmm.
cost you, again, I'm going to use dollars because I don't know the pounds in England, but
Hmm.
$100 to maybe $500,
Yep.
and even then that's probably expensive. So $100 or $200 or $300 for a beginner scope, which if you're thinking about the number of inches we were talking about in mirrors, you make it a 4-inch mirror,
Hmm.
something small that
Hmm.
sits on a desk. Um,
Hmm.
and for just not that much more, you can get a 10-inch mirror and the right
Oh yeah.
equipment, which it's
Oh yeah.
just I'm surprised that's the case, but it's also amazing. And
Yep.
you kind of made me think about how Apple with their computers and their monitors, the Pro HDR monitors, the stand for the monitor alone is $1,000, I think, right? Isn't it right? Like it's
Crazy.
you
It's
know,
just crazy. Yeah.
and then you add the monitor, which is like $6,000. Then you get the computer, and I think that for the Mac Pro, I think the wheels are a couple $100 or something. It's just insane. So it's the same with telescopes. Like sometimes just the thing to put it on, the mount, is
Hmm. Hmm.
an absurd amount of money.
Hmm.
Um, but
But allow me to say something about,
mhm.
again, gradually building it up. Um, I don't know how I would do or approach or performed if I immediately, let's say, have a 10-inch and I don't and skip the 8-inch, the Maxitovs, and then just straight on I'm going for the 10-inch scopeless or even an 8-inch Dobsonian. Um, what I'm trying to say is is very important that I already had the familiarity with the sky
Mm,
because of the previous telescopes,
yeah,
and I had the experience of the telescope use.
right,
That when do you need an extension when you put the camera or not? Is
yeah,
it prime? Is it prime focus, or you need to apply something else? Or okay, now if it works, the camera with prime focus, but then I put a ball or a power mate. Suddenly you realize that you can't find a focus point, and then
hmm,
so these kind of things with Maxotov, it's even worse
really,
because because with the Dobson, you just quickly can zoom in and out, sort of doing the maximum sort of travel in the zooming,
hmm,
sort of, if you know what I mean.
hmm.
But with Maxotov, you just keep on turning it in one way, and you don't know if you're turning it at the right way.
Oh
And
wow,
and and if your tracking is not really good, and by the time you might be focusing, but the star is out of your field of view, and then you think you are focusing, and you will see that the big donut gonna start shrink into us, and then it never happens. And
right,
especially when it was, let's say, daytime ISS passing in front of the sun and you don't have stars.
yeah,
You have the
right,
sun, but you still need to find it. And it's so frustrating. And
hmm,
again, you need to remember that, okay, with this one, I'm zooming in. Let's say if I clockwise turning the knob, and if I anti-clockwise, then I'm zooming out. But you need to have the practice, the experience of telescope use.
hmm,
And I think, again, I understand people just want to have results.
right, right.
They just want to cut corners. But again, it's not the right way. I'm not saying everybody should suffer
You're
and everybody
right.
should go through the
Come
same,
on, suffer a little bit. Yeah.
but it seems like until you are actually putting some time in it, it's your own improvement. Plus, I know a lot of people who are like, yeah, it didn't work out. Nah, I don't care. And I'm like, no, dude, don't. The whole point. I think one of my greatest pluses is that I approach the ISS imaging with there is no wasted attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Every attempt you can get away with some knowledge, some things that you never tried before, you never experienced before. So thinking about, nah, it didn't work out again. No, that's wrong. Pay attention what you were doing, what mistake you made. I mean, I can tell you, 2 minutes before I pump up the ISO on my
Yep.
camera
Yeah.
and I forget to pump it down,
Yep.
or I leave the Batinov mask on, or I can go on. People see the results, but they don't see the failed attempts. And I
Right.
had a lot.
Yeah, dude, same here, man. I was gonna ask you about what if you could come up with a percentage ratio here. Um, it can be very rough, but successes versus failures, and meaning like you bumped the settings up too high and you forgot to turn it down, or you forgot to take off your Batinov mask or your lens cover or whatever it is. Like, um, how many times have you walked away successful and not successful, so to speak?
It's a good one. Maybe more than 50% to the plus, but maybe not that much. I mean, okay, as I was getting more into it, and
Yeah.
and when I was doing it very regularly, then you know your equipment. You kind of, once you figured out the settings, then you don't need to experiment. So it's not like every single time you need to start from zero. No,
Right.
you kind of know how bright the ISS is, and you just stick with the same settings. But I give you a quick example. I've been given a 124 mm camera, ASI 124 mm camera, which is a really nice. It has global shutter, which is very good for us. I don't know if you know the global shutter and what's the other? Oh, I wanted to say quick global and anyway, the other
Yeah.
one, it doesn't come to my mind now. Anyway, so I've been giving to this camera just to test, and what I do usually with my own 17 no, I have a 224 MC camera, color camera. So when I sort of done the setup, I just close the software, close my laptop, and I'll wait until the time comes when everything is set and I still have some buffer time, and then with this one, I did the same thing. I just open up again the laptop and I'm shooting and I'm looking it back and 0 frames. I'm like, okay, I might have made a mistake. And I repeat it again with another attempt later, a few days later, again, nothing. And I'm like, okay, hold on for a second. I mean, I can make mistakes. I get it. But I have enough experience that I know that at least a few frames, if my finder scope is not pointing, not perfectly aligned, then still I should have some, because I'm usually not just following one light, but I'm
Yeah.
going all over the place.
Right.
Exactly. But nothing. And then I realized that camera, if I just shut the laptop and I open it up, unless I disconnect the cable and put it back, it's not working.
Oh.
But I had to figure out what the problem is. And I seriously, and I think I had like a 2 month break. And I'm like, have I really forgot how to do this?
Yeah.
And I had a doubt in my skills. Now hold on for a second. I thought I knew how to do this, and I have a website for it. So what's going on? But then I realized you're sort of going through everything. And then what I'm trying to say is that if you like it and if you're enthusiastic about it, then it means you spend time with it. It is not going to happen if you don't spend time with it. You need to invest some time into it. Otherwise, it's just, you're not going to achieve good stuff.
For sure. Absolutely. I can think of so many times, or I've had failures or failed attempts And
Hmm.
sometimes you make pretty big efforts to go get a shot.
Yeah.
And you know, that's different for everybody, but I remember a time where my daughter was really little, and
Hmm.
I was home with her during the day once, and I said, you know what, we're taking a long lunch break. You know, I was working from home at the time, and I was like, we're gonna drive for 45 minutes out of the way to go to this spot to get a solar transit. So
Hmm.
trying to catch the space station going in front of the sun. I knew exactly where it was. It was a beautiful day. But we got there. I had just got a 224 MC camera, so it was like one of the first few times I'd tried using it. And the only laptop that we own that we have is like a really crummy old MacBook
Hmm.
laptop. It's not even a MacBook Pro. It's just a really old one. And I was like, this should work. Well, it was so bright that I apparently had forgotten to click record, and I thought I had clicked it. And the laptop was not very responsive, so I thought I clicked it, and the button in there that's for record was like, nope, you didn't hit it. So, and I'm out there, and it was so windy that day, and the telescope was blowing around, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I went back after this. I saw it go through my field of view too. I saw the station,
And you went, yay!
and I was like, score. So I look at the laptop afterwards. I'm like trying to see if I have it, and there's no video clip. I was like, "Where's?
Yep.
Are you kidding me?" And then
Yep.
At first, I started blaming the wind, which was not
Hmm.
true. But the equipment ended up being the problem. And I was like, "You mean it's an hour and a half of driving there and back
Yep.
for nothing?" And
Yep.
my daughter is crying in the back of the car because she's at that point she may have been 2 years old and was like, or less than that, and was like, why are we here? It's hot.
And
I don't know what we're doing.
and you're crying in the front.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And it's just, you just walk away. You can feel the color drain from your
Yeah.
face.
Yeah. It's not a nice feeling.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
But for
Yeah.
the opposite of that, the times that you nail it, and I do a lot of my space station stuff right in my driveway out front of my house, and
Hmm.
it's there's times where you're out at 3 a.m. or 11:30 at night, and it's like super late, and you got your stuff out there.
Yep.
You get the pass, it goes over, and you go back and you look through all your stuff, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can see everything. It's
Yeah.
there, the details, the solar panels, the modules, and then you
Yep.
get hundreds of images, and you can't wait, and you stay up till 5 a.m. because you just want to process the images.
Just a bit more. Just
Yeah.
just quickly processing it. You're ending up spending 2 hours with it at least.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. It's but it's a learning curve. You know, I always assumed that, so I wasn't the age of sort of going to the army. You know, they just finished doing that compulsory army service just a few years before it was my turn. Thank
Hmm.
you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
But having said but having said that, I think for me astronomy was the army training,
Mhm.
because once you, okay, so I had the same experience, and once I left some tiny thing, let's say just a tiny extension that goes between the little hole where you put the eyepiece and the camera, and I forgot that. And without that, you don't have focus.
Mhm.
And I think that was a breaking point when I said to myself, okay, now I need to decide if I want to do it seriously or not, because I'm investing lots of my time. I was driving an hour away, an hour back, and there you're doing the setup, you
Yeah.
know. And I was asking myself, why am I doing this if I'm not thorough, if I'm not planning it carefully? And it means that you go through a checklist in your head, or write it down, or does whatever works for people, because then what's the point
Right. Right.
spending so much time and I feel like an idiot,
Yeah.
you know, that
Right.
I'm there and I'm like, I can't believe that I
Yeah.
made so much effort, and just because I'm a bit negligent,
Mhm.
it's not happening. So and then from now on, it makes you much more organized. And I think that's the either making or breaking you point,
Right.
that you either continue in doing it or you say, nah, it's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's I think, again, a normal evolution of the approach.
Right. Totally.
One thing I definitely wanted to mention to you
Mm-hmm.
and your viewers, that I think what a lot of people doesn't know, and I really try to put this message out, that if you want to take nice photos of the ISS, please remind yourself that it's post processing as a skill and an experience, and how you do it is at least 50% playing
Mm.
into the final image. I see people seeing my images, and then they trying to take it, and they're saying mine is nowhere near as nice. And if I show you the raw photos I'm taking, kind of similar,
Right.
and I cannot emphasize it enough. It's just like planetary photography. Just taking one shot is never going to take you there. You
Right.
need to take a video, but then you need to understand how to process that video into frames, the frames into a stacked image, and how you post process that stacked image. Not ISS is not that complicated, but you still need to understand that how to use Photoshop or whatever alternative, and what slides you need to tweak. It's
Right.
not a lot, but there are a few, and I think that's a very, very important thing, because otherwise it's not gonna be as nice as you have the raw material, but you need to tidy it up and get rid of the noise, and that's the
Right.
whole point. We're not adding anything that's not there,
Mm-hmm.
you know. We just making it, we just enhance the details and getting rid of the data that we don't need.
Yeah.
Very important.
You're 100% right. And I learned that the hard way for sure. Because when I started, I was, my first attempts were with I used a DSLR mounted to my
Mm-hmm.
telescope.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taking still images as it's going by. That didn't work. Then I got a
Mm-hmm.
remote. I was getting some shots, and I think I got my first shot from doing that, but it was
Mm-hmm.
one frame.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't get anything, and it's fuzzy, small, no detail. And I asked myself that question: how do all these people that I see on the internet get these amazing shots where you can see the modules, you can see the Canadarm, you can sometimes, in this case, that more recently, you can see astronauts during
Yep.
spacewalks.
Yep.
I was like, how are they doing this? And then after watching your videos and several others, learning, oh, they're taking video. That doesn't make sense. And then you have to ask yourself, well, is that truly a picture if you're taking a video? Like, you can't just say, I snapped this photo of the space station, because you didn't just go, done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But to truly do space station photography, still images, there are post-process where you have several pictures in a row from a video to get as much detail from the best from each frame, combine the best to create the best, right? And I have had probably very little experience since I've gotten to that point, since I got the actual astronomical, like planetary camera. A very little experience with it, but I get the concept now, and it took me so long. It took me years to get there.
Yep. Yep.
And and from that point, there's this. It was like walking through a new set of doors and realizing it wasn't just a narrow hallway I was walking in. It's this giant stadium of opportunity. And, right?
I like it. Yeah, that's
And you're like, well, there's a lot of places I can go with this, and I need to figure out exactly where everything is and how to work with that. And
yep.
and that, to your points, is you got to make a lot of mistakes to get the right thing and find what works, what doesn't. Try again, narrow it down, try again, narrow it down. And when you
It
get
feels
there,
like that you have to make the mistakes, because that's what you learn from. It's a bit like learning, riding a bicycle. How you will fall. It's
Right.
not a question. You will fall. I don't think there's anybody on the planet Earth who was cycling and never fell.
right.
I doubt,
Yeah.
but that pushes you to become better, and And I think that's the whole mojo of it, the gist of it.
Right.
You know, I
Yeah.
think.
No, you're absolutely right.
Hmm.
So that got me thinking, do you remember the first time you got the space station in one of your shots? Do you remember that at all? Was there a big moment you're like, I can't believe I got it?
What do you mean? Sorry, I
Like,
didn't.
yeah, I can clarify. So probably several years ago when you decided, you know
Hmm.
what, I'm going to try to take a picture of the space station.
Yep.
I've never done it before. I'm going to attempt it. The
Uh
stakes have never been higher. And you're outside, you've got the equipment now, and you're like, I'm trying this. You do your attempt, and then you
huh.
go back. Do you remember the first time that you
Oh, the
captured it?
first time. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I it's when I do talks about the ISS imaging, I always highlight that one photo.
Yeah.
That's kind of the first one. It's right. So yes, I do remember. It was taken with a Canon 600D because
Mm-hmm.
guess what? I tried with a DSLR as well.
Yep.
But the 600D had this crop sort of function. Anyway, but before that, I video crop mode. I think that's what it was called.
Yeah, the crop
So you can
sensor.
zoom in. Yeah, exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a crop sensor, but that particular camera, so you can enable a digital zoom
Oh, yeah.
basically,
Yep.
and then when you enable, you can zoom between 3 and 10 times digital zoom, and that's kind of advantageous if you don't have a planetary camera. And but long story short, I was still taking photos, but I realized it's not a full frame camera, so it doesn't write the photos as quick as it should, and after 10 photos it goes tick 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 tick,
Yeah.
and that's not really ideal
Right.
because ISS says hello, I'm gone, bye.
Yep.
It clicked again. But I was taking stills, and it was so overexposed, and so it sorry, it looks like a bunny on ski. So imagine that for some reason that so you have the structure, and you have two pairs of solar panels, and then the other two sort of tilted in a weird way, and it looks like the little bunny sort of the ears are sort of flapping at the back, and just the ski is the two other pair of the. So it's funny because it's kind of the humorous point in my presentation, because everybody, if you will see it, you know straight away what I'm talking
Right.
about.
Right.
So that was my first shot. So it wasn't fuzzy or anything. It was really nice. And funnily, when I started taking videos, it went to a dip.
Mm.
So from a relatively nice first image, then I started taking rubbish images.
Yeah.
Just it's like a blob with bit of reminiscence of the palette solar panels, but that's it. Yeah,
Right.
but yeah, my first one luckily is a memorable one. What
Yeah.
was yours?
Yeah. I was using my I used to use a Canon 5D Mark III at work, and I had that with me
Okay.
all the time. So it was a full frame, which was nice. So I was using that, and I think I got up. It must have been in the 3 or 4 o'clock hour in the morning. It was really
Mm-hmm.
early. I got up way ahead of when I normally would, and it was just
Mm-hmm.
in my driveway, and I remember just shaking because I was so nervous. I was so determined to get a shot of this, and I knew it was a beautiful high altitude pass. It must have been 80 degrees in altitude plus whatever it was, and I was like, this is the perfect opportunity. It's crystal clear. Let's do this. So I took a bunch of still shots, came back,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember reviewing it. It's just totally shaking of fear that I messed it up, but also like
Excitement.
excitement of like, what if I got it? It was this weird mixture of all that. And I thumbed through it, and it's when you're going through your pictures on this tiny little screen, it's still just a dot. So you have to zoom in to each one and just check. And, and then I saw 4 orange panels with a little white
Yep.
silvery center in the middle, and I literally was crying. I I I
Wow.
I crouched down on my driveway, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I did it. And if any weirdo was walking by or driving by at that time, would have they probably would have thought I was some psychopath. But I was so happy. I couldn't believe it that I finally could classify myself as somebody who has taken a picture of the space station, a still image of the space station. And you know, just like anything new that you have success at, that excitement starts to go down each time, but the reward seems to get higher because you get better results.
Absolutely.
So you kind of, I'll never forget that time, but I don't want to take pictures like that ever again, because it was a really, really poor quality image. And then the images I took later are 4, 5, 6 times better. And I'm like, hey, that's what it's about. But I will never forget the first time. It was special.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That got you started. And to be fair, in many ways, I think the firsts are probably the most memorable ones, usually. The first success, sorry. Not the first attempt, the first success.
Right.
Maybe the first attempt is the most memorable because you do something utterly, hilarious looking back. But yeah, definitely. The first success I think is gonna stay with you forever. And let's be frank, you still part of a still very, very, very tiny community who ever snapped a photo of an object that's streaking, crossing the sky with 17.6 thousand kilometers per hour at like 260 miles above the ground at the closest. I think people don't really understand that what kind of challenge this is. This is mega hard, super hard, super duper hard.
Yeah, you could. I always think about asking people, "Hey, what's the fastest thing you've ever taken a picture of?" And they're like, "Oh, maybe a car driving down the highway, or a bird. I don't know. Maybe a plane if you're lucky." And then I'm like, "Well, I think you should try shooting the space station, because you can do it and it's possible." And did you ever think about shooting something that's going 17,500 miles per hour? And then people are like, "What are you talking about? You can't see anything like that." And I'm like, "Yes, you can."
And that's when usually the flat earth people come in and say, "No, you'll be fooled, and this is not true." And it's like, yeah, okay, whatever.
I have
it's funny because I applied a very good technique lately. I keep telling them, instead of me sort of going crazy by proving it and providing all informations, I just say, okay, prove it that it's false. Prove that it's not there.
Right.
Why am I proving, I already proven with my photos.
Right.
Prove it wrong. Show me the evidence why it's wrong, and not just the theory. Not just something utterly, nonsensical. Right. But luckily, I don't have many interactions with flat Earth fans.
I've never talked to a real flat earther. However, one of my best friends, his name is Tony, and he knows how much I love space. And every time I post something on Facebook or wherever, it is his duty to post on it fake fake space is fake, hashtag flat earth, he just
but he's just teasing you, right?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually sometimes I fire back at him. Like he posted a picture of his wife the other day on Facebook, and she was wearing this beautiful shirt that had stars on it, and just anything that's space related we just post back at each other. So I commented, "That is the fakest shirt on all flat earth." And just to like shoot back and forth, and we have a lot of fun with it. But I'm fortunate that I have not actually met a real flat earther, because I don't know how I would handle it. Would hope I'd have grace and some patience, but I would probably just be confused more than anything.
No, it's a strange one, that's for sure.
Looking at kind of space culture, that's a big topic, and it's changing constantly, and we've talked about a lot of little nuggets here and there so far. So I'd like to kind of hone in and talk about some of those things specifically. So
Sure.
Let's talk about social media, and probably the most active place for astrophotographers to be is space Twitter, and this sort of world within Twitter that's where people who are doing astronomical space flight, astrophotography thing all communicate the most. It's a community. What are your thoughts on space Twitter and in social media in general, and the power of it as an astrophotographer? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think it's crucial to, in terms of making this hobby popular, and I think there's some sort of revolution of people who are not coming from a scientific background but have good skills on capturing things, not necessarily understanding on a scientific level, but definitely, I mean, that's where the community kicks in. um, Definitely, I think uh, it's a good thing that we have this today, the information, the access of for information, or let it be photography, or when you can see certain things in the sky. It's That's why a community is great. And I think with social platforms, people really trying to understand what's the power of international cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually that's why we love the ISS for a start,
And
because it's a massive
is there,
international cooperation.
and that's actually a bullet point I have here to talk about. So I'm glad you brought that up. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. Continue on that, because I would love to talk about that as a whole topic. So international cooperation. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is just a manifestation on a different level. That I have friends who live in other countries, but still can help with useful information. Just let it be experience, or they saw something we can't see because of the topographical distances. Yeah, so I think it's fantastic. And we were talking yesterday when we get together a little bit, that till today, one of my best shot is the one that's been tweeted, not retweeted, but tweeted. So in a single separate post by Chris Hadfield, the astronaut commander.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a recognition for me. It probably means nothing to most of the people, but for me, it's when an astronaut who's been on that object that we are photographing,
Yeah.
he was the commander of it for 6 months and singing all kinds of amazing songs up there.
Yeah.
Suddenly, he kind of gives you a bit of a recognition. And it's funny because I started feeling the same when I am picking up somebody's photo. Let's say on my website, I do it used to be the International Space Station photo of the month, but I sort of downgraded because now we don't have just one space station. So it's called Space Station Photo of the Month. And when I choose somebody's photo, uh, it's a niche thing. Although I don't see it that way because I've been there from the beginning, and I don't necessarily see that it's a unique place. It's like if you're an astrophotographer and your photo is on Space Weather Gallery or APOD,
Yeah.
the astrophoto of the day, uh, because it's a recognition, and if it's shared to people, then suddenly it becomes viral, and it can reach an audience that probably it would never break through that barrier, because people would say, why it looks like a TIE fighter.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the special thing about it?
Yeah. It's so true. It happens all the time.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
all the time.
so we were talking earlier about our shirts.
Yes.
Your hoodie, my t-shirt, your hat. You're wearing your hat too.
I am. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you know Star Wars, it does. If you kind of blur your eyes, it looks like a TIE fighter with the wings.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
the space station is
there is some similarity for sure.
Right.
Yeah, we have to admit there's a reason why people say that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the power of social media giving you a reach that unless you went door to door on your street and started knocking on doors and saying, do you want to look at this picture I took? You know, how else would people see it? And it's every day. We probably scroll by dozens or if not hundreds of images. The latest from James Webb Space Telescope, some Milky Way photo from a person in China, the latest the ISS photo from Germany, you know, whatever it is. Like that, just instantly you can just pull up your device and then boom, you have access to this, and then you can comment and interact and get not only feedback on your own images, and you can give people feedback, and you can learn too. It's like, wow, I see you got that photo, it's better than mine. What did you do to do that so that I can improve my skills? And I can be talking with you in London where me over here by Chicago instantly, as long as one of us isn't asleep. You know?
Yes. But what I have to highlight that just like whatever pluses usually comes with minuses, because that's maybe yin and yang, or I don't know. There is this natural thing in life that plus always attracts the minuses. So platforms are also tempting people to just chase recognition, likes, retweets, shares, whatever platform you're talking about. And even just making your photograph into the astrophoto of the day, because now if your photo is highlighted there, it means instantly, I don't know how many people gonna boom following you. And I have seen people actually not just cutting corners but cheating and creating fake things. There was I captured from the Canary Islands once with the 90mm Manfrotto, the ISS going right in front of Jupiter. Sorry, Saturn. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's a tiny scope with a, so I captured it, but it's nothing hoo-ha. But it's still there. It's covering one frame, covering the disk of the planet.
Yeah.
And I remember when I arrived there was an astrophoto of the day from a German guy, and he took an amazing quality photo sequence of, you have Jupiter and bam, 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 11 frames.
Yeah.
And I was staggered. And I was like, okay, if I can just replicate half of it, I would be half of it, fraction of it. And then it's so funny that then the story broke out that renowned, so famous astrophotographers started pointing out that that something is not okay with that photo. So they discovered that all the ISS frames, they look the same.
Oh yeah.
If you ever image the ISS, just because you're looking through unsettled atmosphere, even if during a lunar or a solar transit, so in front of the moon or the sun, there is no two frames are similar. It's squashed a little bit here, a little bit there because of the atmospheric distortion. And his was perfectly the same.
Yeah.
And it turned out after like 2 or 3 days of agony, he finally admitted that he took separately the Jupiter, separately the ISS, and he just copy-pasted 11 times the ISS over Saturn, right?
Yeah.
But by that time, he gained so many followers, and I've seen his channel. It's like, I don't know, he's got so many followers, And I remember Steven Ramsden, who's huge in solar observation in America. He's a really great guy. And he was retweeting one of my photos, I think, about this event, which I captured eventually and said, at least this is real.
Oh, yeah.
So and I got, like, my photo went viral and got like 70,000 views on my channel, despite I had like 300 followers, saying, look, that was an epic fakery, but you can do it. Yeah, it's
Right.
not as nice, it's not as beautiful, but it's real.
Right.
And that was the first time when I saw that this is a very dangerous, it can be a very dangerous game. It's a humiliation to someone. And and that guy is a great astrophotographer. And
Mhm.
I really didn't understand that why you need to do this, especially if you're that good.
Right. Right.
And it's just recognition and fame, nothing else.
Yeah.
So the human factor comes into this as well, and it's sad when you see something like that from hero to zero, basically.
Right. Right. And it's just like with athletes. Um, I'm a runner.
Same.
I've been a competitive runner for a lot of my life, so I've paid attention to, Olympic track athletes,
Hmm.
marathon people, who pull off these incredible times and efforts in a race, and then you find out that they were blood doping. They were injecting oxygenated blood into their bloodstream before their race, and they're basically superhuman
Yeah.
at that point. And it's like, you're at that level, the stakes
Hmm.
are so high, and your reputation, your team's reputation, your coach's
Hmm.
reputation, and any sort of like winnings that you get, any prize or accolade, like all of that goes away if someone finds out, and it's so easy to mess it up. So you always have to wonder, it's like, what delusion do people have to
Hmm.
be so far down to try something like that?
Mm,
And it unfortunately has found its way into astrophotography too, where there's people who can fake
yeah.
images,
Yeah.
and you can hope that all they can do is learn, and then eventually
Hmm.
come back with real images and start sharing again, and make good high quality stuff that people can enjoy, and
Exactly.
maybe at the expense of a little bit of fame or fewer likes or subscribers or whatever it is. But
Exactly. Exactly. And on top of it, you see, I discovered that just the fact that I'm doing it regularly, I am perfectly aware that there are so many people who started after me and already taking nicer photos like I do, but it really doesn't bother me because
mhm.
I'm in a comfortable position that I am one of an engine of this community, so their achievement is my achievement as
Yes,
well.
yeah,
And I can be happy for it. And I that was a time, obviously. I think it's a time for everybody when you're taking it a little competitive, or you just want to improve, or just want to do your best. But for me, regularity gave the unique experience of seeing things, seeing changes. You see the arrows of solar panels when they went up. It
hmm
was so nice to see that all of my images nothing, and then suddenly something new appears, or the Nauka module.
hmm
Let's say I was imaging. I was so lucky 2 days in a row when they
yeah,
launched it, and twice I could manage to. It's a bloody module. It's like 10 meters long,
yeah,
or it's not huge, and you can see the panels. You can see the structure, and I'm amongst a very few people
hmm
who has a photo of a solo flying Nauka module before it became part of the International Space Station.
yep.
You know,
And that took
or when
it
yep,
took
sorry, yep.
years of preparation to get that image, years of
Mm,
practice,
exactly.
imaging everything else, planets, space station, whatever, so that you could be available those 2 days, and
Hmm.
and be in that very unique portion of the human population that will have had that chance
Hmm.
to do it. That's remarkable. I did not get the chance
Yeah.
to see it. I remember looking for it.
Hmm.
I went outside, and I just couldn't see it. I think it was too
Yeah.
late at night or whatever. So yeah, it's stuff like that. It's it's so
Yeah.
cool, so cool.
But it has stories, you see,
Hmm
because I have one photo when the Soyuz MS-13 with three crews on board was 67 meters away from the ISS when I
Yeah.
photographed it.
hmm
For that to happen, you have to have, first of all, the timing right, that you
hmm
have the flyby when the Soyuz is just that close. Plus, they were docking to they were docking to the aft of the Zvezda module.
hmm
So if they dock from the normal uh, nadir, so Earth-facing docking ports, I see nothing because it
Right.
might just blend into the ISS.
Yep.
Plus, if it comes 10 minutes later, they already docked.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's cloudy, I see nothing.
Yeah.
So there are so many ways it could have gone wrong, and it just didn't. And I was there, and I was really thinking about, should I do it? And then I went out, and I will never forget when I started looking back, and then you suddenly see the ISS and a tiny little point out there, and there are frames. You can see the solar panels of the Soyuz.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what? Really? I couldn't believe it. I had a few moments like that, and these are the moments, that just the epic culmination of everything you've done in the past up until that moment.
Right.
And that's why and you don't foresee these things. I did not start it because I wanted to photograph something so close to the eye. No, I just had the interest, and the rest is just coming as an opportunity, and you go for it.
Yeah. I was just talking. Absolutely. I was just talking with one of my, I lost my camera focus there for a second. I was talking to one of my friends, I think on a different stream that I did, last week, and I was describing to him. Do you remember? It was, I think, a few years ago. I think it was in Thailand. There were that group of boys got stuck in a cave that was flooding.
Yes.
And people from all over the world came to try to save them, and they got them out. But it was like this.
Yes.
It was pretty certain everyone was gonna die. They were like, "There's no way we can do this." There was a documentary shot, and it's available now. I'm struggling to remember the name of it. But oh, hey, the dog's back. What's up, Noah?
Hey. It's a nice addition to the live stream.
right.
Yes.
Nova making an appearance.
Hey, Nova.
Yeah. What's up? Glad you're back.
I love dogs.
Yeah, right. Oh, there she goes. Oh, my camera's like focus.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
So I watched the documentary about it, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the film director Jimmy Chin.
Yes, I think they've done the Return to Space now.
Yes. Yeah. You saw that? You just watched that?
Yeah, because his wife is, I think his father is Hungarian.
No way. Okay. See, but the world is round, right? That's
it.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Well, I had I'm in a tangent here. I came across Jimmy Chin because he has a master class, and I was telling you yesterday when we were talking about Chris Hadfield, I took his class and I did Jimmy Chin's photography class, and this guy has done documentaries and films, but he's a National Geographic like cover photo photographer. This guy is some of the best photos in the world, and he did the movie Free Solo.
Okay.
It was about
Is it The Climber?
Yes.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. I heard of it, that he was basically climbing without any safety. Yeah. They were praising. I was reading an article about the couple, and they were going through how they progressed and how they got to this point to actually shining the expertise through this latest work of theirs.
Yeah, for sure. So I'd watched Free Solo, and then when I saw that he had come out with this documentary about the cave and the boys stuck in the cave, and then the most recent one on Netflix for the kind of the Elon Musk SpaceX commercial crew return to space story. This guy's films are amazing. The whole reason I'm bringing this up, I guess, is in the one about the cave. They talked about how the people who were considered experts were the people who couldn't do it. They're the Thailand. I want to say it was Thailand. I might be getting that wrong. I think it was Thailand. But their Navy SEALs and their top military people couldn't save them. So they found people in the UK, in the US, all over the world. They had like 10 guys who are like just cave dive for fun. It's their weekend. It's their weekend hobby. And they said, they called these guys up on the phone and said, I'm sending you a plane ticket I don't care what you're doing tomorrow, you're coming here to save these kids.
Uh-huh.
And they had to drop everything they're doing in their life, risk their own life for
Yep.
something that might not even work, because they were the people who had been practicing for
Yep.
years
Yep.
for this specific moment that they couldn't even
Mm-hmm.
plan for. And there's the full circle moment there. Like, there's, when you started taking pictures, there's no way you would have thought of taking an image of the Nauka module, or the Soyuz docking,
Yeah.
or whatever. But it's just being ready when the moment was there.
Yep.
You didn't have to worry about it. You could get out. You had the skill and the experience, and you could nail it when you had the opportunity. The very, very narrow window of opportunity.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't save lives though, but
Right. Yeah.
but it's entertaining. It's definitely entertaining, and as I said, this is going to just intensify, and that's, I think, something we definitely should look forward. It will be super emotional when ISS gonna
Oh
yeah, that's gonna be yeah. I
God.
mean, it's nothing we can do about it. It's coming,
Mhm.
but but I try to look at it as the massive opportunity for the first time for the human species to finally sort of getting above our tiny little um shenanigan rich world where we think that, oh, my country is so important and your country is so not important, and we kind of busy ends down here, but when you go up there, and I think that's the overview effect,
Mhm.
that William Shatner put so beautifully on that new Shepard flight, and all the astronauts. You don't see boundaries, you don't see countries, you don't see any of these things. You see what we do to this planet, and you see that that's our spaceship, and it's really not recommended to screw up your spaceship, because then you have nowhere to go. And even if we are the spacefaring civilization, as Elon Musk is dreaming about, and we becoming interplanetary, we still far away from being sustainable.
Right.
And not even mentioning, as soon as you touch ground on whatever planet, just like on the ISS, your body immediately starts adapting. And then who knows, in a few generations, what kind of human beings we're gonna have on other bodies. It's unavoidable. And
Mhm.
then just in question of time when we're gonna see a division between the Martian humans and
Yeah.
like in Expanse,
Yes.
in the
Yes. Mhm.
same,
Right.
same, and it just makes you realize that until we overcoming this stupidity, what we do here, I mean, it's still much better than 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, but we're still not really nailing it.
Right.
And I think that the space travel is shining a bright light to humanity. You see, even now in the midst of a conflict,
Yeah.
they are absolutely professional up there. They hugging each other. They're happy for them because they know that I'm relying on him and he's relying on me. And
Mhm.
if we stop doing this, we're done.
Right.
We're done.
Nobody wins. Right.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
So I think for me, this was an so it's not just photography. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
This is the bigger picture. It's like like a horse with a blindfold, and suddenly somebody just takes the blindfold and says, "Oh wow, there are more horses in here, and
Yeah.
oh, there's a whole place in here."
Yeah. Right. Speaking of horses, that's a really great connection here. When I was in college, like I said, I was a runner, so I would compete in track and field and cross
Hmm.
country distance running.
Hmm.
My coach was something of kind of a philosopher, and he was a really great guy, and he used to talk to us about the concept of synergy.
Hmm.
And you're better off with a teammate. It
Hmm.
kind of just makes sense, but you don't really think about what that actually means physiologically, like with your physical body, or mentally, or even
Hmm.
emotionally in your heart. What it means to have somebody there with a common cause. Um, And he used to tell us as we were running races, don't chase the other teams that are out there running with you. Who cares about them? Go work towards your next teammate. Someone be for in favor of your teammates instead of against someone else, because every time you are against somebody else, you're taking energy away from yourself and you're giving it to them. Instead, build your team, your people, and grow that team mentality. So the horse connection was, he used to tell us one horse can pull with the strength of 4 horses at its best. It's just like sort of this study that had been done. And if you get 2 horses together pulling a cart, you would think, oh, well, then it's 8, the strength of 8 horses, right? Well, actually, it's the strength of 16 horses. Scientifically, that makes no sense. How is that explainable? If 1 equals 4, then 2 should equal 8. But it's because those 2 horses know that they share the same goal, the same vision of achieving together. They can pull well beyond any sort of science or anything that can tell you like why that is. And I think that goes for the power of the international community actually cooperating, working together. In astrophotography or spaceflight, we're better off together, and there should be every effort should be made to make sure that people are working together, sharing with each other the knowledge that they gain, and more importantly, celebrating each other when something good happens, and if something bad happens, being there for those people when something bad happens. So I think we would go. That's what the space station represents altogether. And you know that there's just this would never have happened with America alone or Russia alone, any of the European countries alone. Like it took every person that's worked in the program, every astronaut or cosmonaut, every flight director, whatever it is, to be working with each other, and the payoff is huge. The scientific research, the benefits to humanity and the human body, technology. It just makes you wonder how much we may have missed, but also how much we have to gain from improving our level of cooperation together. So sorry, that was my long rant, but
I fully and totally agree with that. Totally. I totally see what you're saying. It should be an inspiration for everybody, to be fair, and we need to cherish this. Hopefully we will learn as a species from it, that together we are more than if we are alone and separated.
And
let's hope so.
I think when you and I see, and many others really, when we see the space station fly over as a little white dot with our naked eye, or in a picture that we took, we don't just see some hunk of metal cruising by. We don't see it, we feel it. We feel the joy and the camaraderie that is the collective of everybody, and you share in that. And it's how you and I are here today speaking over a video call. I would never have met you otherwise, probably, without the space station. And you can trace that all the way back to people in the early 90s and the late 80s talking, hey, maybe we should make an international collaborative space station instead of just the next American or the next Russian station. Well, they didn't know that 40 years later, here we are.
Yep. Plus, obviously, sharing the cost. I think it was more about sharing the cost of that huge. I mean, still today, it's the most expensive thing we've ever built. But you see, that's the beauty of it, is that now, so we had sort of paving the path with the ISS, and now that we have a new era of private space companies beating every other player in terms of costs, and then it means that we can build stuff for much cheaper. So it means from now on, hopefully, when Starship really gonna go online, even as a cargo ship for first,
Mhm.
telescopes, building stuff, launching satellites, bigger satellites that just we have never had the capability. And I think people forget. Okay, I'll give you this example. The Antonov 224, that the Maria was destroyed now in the war,
Mhm.
and that was the biggest aircraft. So until you having it, you don't really see that what you would miss if you
Yeah.
when you don't have it anymore, the capability. And I think that's the huge message of the ISS. It just opened up a new way of conducting science, i.e. in space.
Mhm.
And now it's everybody sees that it's a no-brainer to to continue that path. And I really hope that this conflict won't end it, because it's not the interest of anybody to
Mhm.
get rid of the ISS way sooner than you have to.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think even it was just today
yes.
that there was that news about that Russia had announced that there would potentially remove this Russian segment. Um, I don't know if that it may just be blowing smoke, especially with the Roscosmos director Dmitry
Hmm.
Rogozin. Is that right?
Hmm.
You know, he's been saying a lot of things, so I don't know
Yeah,
if he's just making more statements, but it's
I don't think so.
it's saddening to consider that this little physical station is going to be split much sooner than.
It can't be, look, it physically it can't be. They don't, it's been designed the way that they can't live separately. That's
Mhm.
the whole point of it. And
Mhm.
you see, I think this is where exactly we got the perfect representation of planet Earth. You can't half Earth or, break away a bit. No, this is
Yeah.
one thing. No
Yeah.
matter how you like it or not, you can't just step out of it. It's not like a relationship. I'm gone, honey. I don't care anymore.
Mhm.
No, it either exists or it doesn't exist. I mean, how are they gonna power that segment?
Right.
For a
Right.
start.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Good point. And
Americans already making some ways or plans of how to do the attitude control with Cygnus and Dragon. But
mhm.
again, that's not meant to be. That's not designed for it. And I don't think it's gonna work. And
Mhm.
it's a good thing because it's forcing them to find a way to
Right.
cooperate,
Hmm.
or
Definitely.
chopping your arms off, because it's just as beneficial for Russia as it's beneficial for America, Japan, or any of the ESA countries, the European Space Agency countries. So, we're gaining too much to just give it up by political differences.
Hmm.
I'm hopeful. I'm
Right.
hopeful. I'm optimist about it.
Same. Yeah. I would agree. And there's time, which is good because there's
Hmm.
something a feat as big as that or as large as that, removing a segment would be such a huge effort and a really
Mm.
expensive move for
Mm.
everybody,
Mm.
that you can't just say that it's happening tomorrow. you
Hmm.
know and I think even Rogozin said that there'd be a year's notice if they were even going to attempt something like that. So how much can change in a year,
Mm.
whereas this conflict with Russia and Ukraine has only been happening for 2 months.
Yep.
Who knows where it's going to be in 2 more months or in a year from now.
Exactly.
So who's to say that the space station needs to be separated anytime
Yeah.
soon, um, especially when
I
it's
don't see a real chance for that.
and I know that they had said they were planning to do that when the ISS was going to be decommissioned,
Hmm.
so they could add onto it and build a new Russian station
Hmm.
anyway. But as far as I know, Russia is not prepared either financially or with the equipment to even attempt that in the next 2 decades. So
No.
they might as well deorbit and start over if that would be to be what they would try. Um, and
Hmm.
I just don't think it's feasible. So they're
No,
it's
no,
with
no, 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 no.
it's to their benefit to stick together and to keep working. So
It's more their benefit.
yeah.
I mean, just I have a huge respect to what Russia and the Soviet era especially achieved in terms of spaceflight, groundbreaking in that time, and still really smart people doing extremely good science, but they are not in the financial situation. I mean, just
Right.
see that how much delay now committed to the ISS
Yeah. Right.
for a start, and them talking about a new space station, Russian space station. I do not know how they're gonna finance it, run it. Um, I nah,
Yeah.
nah. I mean, there's a lot said lately, and I think it's just, I call it verbal karate.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
between the parties. Yeah, they have to do this. Yeah, because you need to look tough. But
Right.
I don't see any possibility for that, to be
Right.
honest. And I might be wrong, and they might go against complete. I mean, last year they just shut down the Cosmos 1408. Yeah, and there's no rationale behind it. We talked about it on our channel. There is zero
Right.
rationale behind it. So me being, expecting them acting rationally, maybe a pie in the sky, and they might just simply just go, okay, guys, poof,
Hmm.
and separate it, and that's it, and ISS is done.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. We will see, but
Right.
I hope we are right.
When you talked about the day that the ISS is supposed to be decommissioned, which I think has
Mhm.
been extended to 2031, is that right?
At the moment is 2024, and I think officially it's not extended yet,
Okay.
not
Okay.
from
So
the Russian side. Yeah,
got it. Okay.
I think, but I might be wrong. I think that's what rings the bell.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe I was remembering there was maybe just a discussion or an article or something that came
Yeah,
out with.
there is a plan. Yeah, there is a
Okay.
plan of extending it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Um, and thinking about that day, and regardless of the conflict with Russia and Ukraine, the day that is strategically deorbited and it burns up, it physically
Yep.
will die. you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yep.
um, I will be an emotional wreck.
Mm.
It's been essentially a friend. This thing,
Yeah.
it feels like a person, and it's been such a gift to us and so many people in the world. To think
Yeah.
about it not being there
Yeah.
is almost terrifying, and and like I said, there'll be much newer things.
Mm-hmm.
Starship, lunar gateway is going to be around the moon. Artemis program. There's so much more to be looking at, but this bridge, this space station being this bridge that has taken us through the shuttle era into the modern era,
Yep.
continuous habitation by humans for 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
breaking records constantly for machinery and function and use, humans existing in space, space flights, spacewalks. I mean, everything. To see this thing just go away one day is going to be just so hard to get over. I think it will feel
Mm-hmm.
like someone has died in my life. And would you say the same? Would you feel similarly, or how would you feel about that?
I would. I definitely, most certainly will. But to be fair, I really don't pay attention to this side at the moment. I
Mm.
think this pushes me more. It's a bit like knowing that your own life gonna end at some point, and
Yeah.
it's kind of pushing you to, especially when somebody close to you passes away, and then you say, okay, I need to cherish this, and I need to make the most of it. That's how I treat the ISS.
Hmm.
That as long as it's up there, let's pay attention, let's tell to people, let's show the photos, let's talk about it as long as we can, and
Right.
it's just enjoying it, enjoy the achievement of our brilliant species, because we are sending the best and the most brilliant and the brightest to there to represent, certain countries and our species, and that's the foundation of the continuity. I mean, I've seen um, Glover, what's his name? The astronaut.
Oh,
Uh,
uh, uh,
I forgot his first name for a second. Anyway,
I think
he's
I know who you're
part
talking
of
about.
the Artemis program,
Yeah.
and Jessica Meir is part of, I
Victor
think, the
Glover.
Victor Glover. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Hmm.
Sorry, Victor.
Yeah.
If you're watching this,
we got there. Yeah, it's okay.
sorry for that.
It's
And
okay.
yeah, so they are all part of the the selection for the Artemis missions. So all these people basically who are making their way to the ISS now, this new wave of astronauts, this is their sort of the what is it called? When you enter a house, this is
Showing.
the hall. Yeah, the
Yeah.
hall before you enter
Mm.
the living room. It's
Oh, yeah.
this is your warm up
Mhm.
towards a huge and much greater things. And believe me, it's gonna be an utter joy for us on our channel to broadcast even the first mission going around the moon.
Mhm.
Gonna be brilliant, even without humans on board.
Yeah.
If it happens this year, finally we're gonna see the moon in such resolution, and then when people gonna go back, that's gonna be our moon landing.
Right. Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's more than that. It's just so cool. It's gonna be so cool, so
Ah,
cool,
oh man,
and
now
it's
I'm
all
getting
started
chills.
with diet. It's gonna be amazing. Yeah,
and
yeah,
and
and we are at the right place, in the right time. So
right.
let's photograph it.
That dude, I'm right there with you. Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be
That's our
great.
duty.
Yes, it's true. It's true. And hopefully, if we're doing our parts right, there will be
Hmm.
more people than ever attempting to
Yep.
photograph these moments.
Yep.
So if that's the
I
case,
can
then
I can already see, compared to when I started a few years ago, that I can see multiple ISS images constantly on my Twitter feed,
mhm.
and that's great. And not taking for me, but it's just people are just getting into it more and more. And yeah, I love it. I
Yeah,
love it. I love seeing this, and I hope I played a tiny part of it. Sort of kicking this hobby even at a larger scale.
right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Oh,
big,
dude,
big
very, very
things.
cool. um, well, we're I see 2 hours and 20 minutes, so that time slipped by pretty quickly. Um,
220.
yeah.
Okay.
um,
Wow. Okay.
so to honor your time, I know it's probably late for you where you are now, getting late. It's 4:38 in the afternoon here. What is it? Where is?
It's it's 10:40, 10:38 p.m.
Okay, yes. So I would like to afford you the chance to go to sleep and actually get some rest. So I would figure that probably now would be a good time to close things up. Um,
Hmm.
the last thing I would want to ask is, what are some, if you could briefly tell me, what are some of the goals that you have in the near future, next couple of months? Do you have any photos that you're looking to attempt, or maybe throughout the rest of the year even? Are there any? Would you want to get some specific shots or?
In terms of ISS photography, I don't have anything specific. I don't know anything special. Maybe the new IROs are the second pair of
Mm,
the pair of the IROs are. This is the new solar arrays that gonna go up. It's smaller and more efficient, and this is just part of the upgrade. So that may be on my list, but if I see the big things we touched a bit, I'm going to America. Like
mhm.
Borat, I'm going to
Yeah.
America,
Oh yeah.
and
Let's hope
so
that it's a different experience than if it were a Borat movie. It's
yes, slightly throwing money for the cockroaches.
right.
I mean that movie is sick. Anyway, let's not go there.
Right. Right.
Um, so we are going to the States to see a rocket launch, hopefully, with Space Junkie, our YouTube channel, and our ecosystem, to be precise, and that would be maybe a lifetime experience.
Mm,
I am so looking forward. End of July, hopefully, we already got the tickets, and we're gonna go to Florida. We're gonna meet hopefully with Felix Schlank. He promised us that if we are around there, he might come along.
mhm.
Also, seeing the Psyche launch on a Falcon Heavy. the two boosters landing
Yeah,
back on
just
the launch site.
yeah.
I mean, I can't wait. I've never seen a rocket launch in my entire life. I've seen rockets flying over, but I've never seen a real launch.
Same,
And
yeah.
then Kennedy Space Center and all these things. And then we go down to Starbase, to Boca Chica,
Yeah.
and basically just see. I mean, again, there will be a dream come true scenario. So that's definitely on the top of my list.
Oh, dude.
And
That's
see you in Florida.
absolutely amazing. And yes, dude, I mean, when I first saw your tweet about you coming to the States, I was like, hey, I can actually come meet you, and we don't have to just be Twitter acquaintances.
Yeah.
Like, I can actually get a flight and we can meet in person. That'd be amazing. So, I would love to meet you down there and to experience those things with you, because we were talking yesterday. I've also never seen a real rocket launch, and the one time I went, it got scrubbed. If this is perhaps the chance that we can do it and we could do it together, sign me up. So
Please, yeah. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, we got a ticket, so until something major happens that prevents me from going, not getting visa, getting sick, whatever, I'm aware of that. I'm a realist, and I understand things can interrupt your plans. But if I can, I will make it, and definitely, if you're around there, definitely let's catch up.
yeah,
Most importantly, because it's gonna be super cool.
yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, that'd be great. And who knows who else along the way, next couple months that or that we all know. I'm sure for an event like a Falcon Heavy launch, which we haven't had in several years, everybody's going to try and get down there. So maybe we could try to coordinate some kind of a giant space Twitter, space YouTube meetup where you get just everybody to go. I don't know. Rent a McDonald's or something. That's just I don't know.
We will find the appropriate place.
right. I mean, maybe the vehicle assembly building. Who knows? Maybe we can get in there.
Yeah. No, I mean that's just a question of details. Once you're down there, of course. Yeah. I mean, it would be so cool.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. I think it'd be awesome.
Love to do that. I'd love to do that.
Cool. Great. Well, I think that's kind of what I had on my list here. So we can wrap things up. Thank you, Szabi, for the 2.5 hours of time you spent here, and the additional time yesterday when we were doing our technical test. You spent a lot of your weekend here with me and this channel, the Orbital Alliance. So we're just grateful for your passion, your kindness, and this connection that we have. I'm really excited about that. So thank you very much,
Nick. It definitely was a pleasure. Thank you for inviting. I mean, these 2.5 hours just flew by like a half an hour. I really enjoyed the talk. Let's hope that we're reaching your audience, hopefully inspiring some people to, if nothing else, just go out and see the ISS. There is always humans on board. I think it's a frenetic feeling when you see a source of light sort of passing you by, and you know that there are humans up there. So I think it's incredible. Thanks for inviting. It was an absolute pleasure, and I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Great. That's fantastic. And to, again, bring that all to a close, the Orbital Alliance is about being an alliance. We're working together. We're unifying because of the things that we love. In this case, it's space. So as long as we're learning about space, we're doing everything right. And you are part of the alliance as well. So Szabi, welcome to the Orbital Alliance. You are an orbiter, and I'm looking forward to continuing to have conversations like this. And hopefully we can do some more videos like this, or even some live streams in the future.
Okay. I'd love to do that.
Sweet. And the last thing, can you teach us how to say goodbye in Hungarian?
I can try, although we use "sia," which very similar to "see ya" in a sort of slangy way. But let me think. Goodbye maybe is a shorter version. Is "viszlát." Viszontlátásra, but that's just seems okay. Let's try this. Viszontlátásra.
Viszontlátásra.
Dude, you speak Hungarian.
Yeah, yes. So what was the short version?
Viszlát.
Viszlát?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Viszlát.
Okay, great. So Viszlát. Okay,
Viszlát.
yeah, close enough.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Perfect. As I said, you speak Hungarian.
Great. I'm in. Well, I'll hang on to that, and then the next time you can teach me some more words.
Sounds like a deal.
Awesome. All right, you guys, you made it. You made it to the end. Can you believe it? 2.5 hours, and you've made it to the end. Thank you for putting in the time, for supporting the Orbital Alliance, by giving us 2.5 hours. Cannot tell you what that means to me. Thank you very much. I really, really do truly hope you learned something. And I want to encourage you guys, please go support Szabi. Support his YouTube channel, Space Station Guys. Subscribe to him, like his videos, watch his videos. Go to his website, spacestationguys.com. Give it a look through his archive of photos, and also buy something from his web shop if you feel like you want to support him even more. That would be awesome. Szabi, thank you, my friend, for meeting me online for the first time, supporting my channel by giving me your time, and it was just so wonderful to talk with you, man. Thank you for everything. It was the best, and I cannot wait to do it again. I'll hopefully see you soon in August in Florida. If we get the chance to meet, that'd be awesome. And of course, the final plug, I want to ask you guys if you thought this video was helpful to you in any way, or if you found it entertaining, or whatever it is, I would appreciate your subscription here on the Orbital Alliance. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Those links are below in the description. So stay tuned for content just like this, all about space, and I will see you all on the other side.